Well, it's Tuesday, it's 5 o'clock, we're going to begin the meeting, and we're doing interviews today. So Cheryl, I have some couple questions I would like to ask you.
Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. Without using any names or places of employment, can you describe your favorite and least favorite supervisor and why? But don't use any names and don't use any places of employment.
I got you. So, I think this is not just my opinion.
Yes, of course it is.
Is that my least favorite would be the micromanager. You know,
Okay.
like I did have a manager one time who micromanaged to the point of, I think, the ergonomic keyboard that has two separate hands,
Yeah.
To operate on. And I think this is the kind of keyboard you could have. So that would be,
Okay.
that would be an example. That would be like, you can manage, but.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your least favorite. What's your favorite type of supervisor?
I think valuing my opinion, allowing for growth, and by that I mean reach, like giving you a project that's just a little bit beyond something that is rote to you,
Okay.
so you're able to develop and learn at the same time.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. What's the most satisfying accomplishment in your working career? You can think if you want.
I don't have to think. I mean, it's
take a couple minutes.
2021. Anybody that, kind of doesn't say surviving 2020 is just crazy. But at the level that I did, managing, that required a 360 degree, 180 degree turnaround in how we operate, everything else, just everything in general, accomplishing, and then proving a 100% success rate.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of hard not to be proud of that, given.
And how much of that were you involved with? Almost all of it?
I didn't pay the bill, but I did.
Fair enough.
Okay. What would you think is the most embarrassing work situation you've ever come into?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm personally, embarrassed if I'm not prepared, because that's important to me, and I usually, generally am.
Yeah.
So I would find personal embarrassment in not being prepared. Walking into a situation, that kind of that thing, oh, here she is now, and then say something that, here, say this, and that this answer requires some research, and you can't, nor should you, speak off the cuff to something.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm personally embarrassed by not being prepared, and so the situation would be being called on immediately to do something that you just.
Okay. Thank you. There's some math involved here. Not that we do a lot of math because the computer does most of it for us.
Yeah.
But there has to be some sort of sense of looking at numbers and understanding how they flow. So we have a few, I think, simple questions for you here. If you take as much time as you want, if the question is not clear, I'd be willing to explain it to you. But if you would look at that and
Feel free to take a pen.
do what you think you can do. You're right there.
Oh, okay.
If one of them doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. If you want to use your calculator on your phone, it's perfectly okay.
Oh, it is?
Yep,
Geez, now you
I
tell
can give
me.
you one if you want.
I'm going here, I'm looking like this. I'm like,
perfectly okay.
holy
I wanted to
moly.
make you struggle first.
Is that what you wanted to do?
I don't know.
Because, you know, I'm gonna tell you, it's like,
Maybe he did.
he did. You know how he sat there and just said, you know, Right, this is a mind boggler here right now. I'm going, okay, I've got our prime numbers, I'm trying to,
Whenever you're ready to stop, that's fine. But if you want to look at it a little longer, that's perfectly fine too.
well, I love this kind of stuff, but I guess I don't want to take too much time doing it. And I'm like, okay, so they're all, I'm going with that one. Okay, I'm having,
That's okay, that's okay.
that one is like, hey, you know, I'm going, okay, I've eliminated 12 things already quickly, so.
Let's go down and we'll do them together.
Right.
What do you got in the first one? What's your blank?
64.
Yep. Next one?
243.
You got, it's three times 80. Everything is three times. Yes. Next one?
446.
Yep. Yep.
38.
Yep.
We skipped that one.
You know, the last one is,
Yeah, the one, which two numbers are different?
right,
I didn't
there's
do
two
that.
numbers there that are different. Number 48 and 21, they don't have a 3 in them. All the other
Other
numbers
ones
have,
have 83, but, you know, just strictly looking at the back end,
every other ones have a 3 on
What'd
it.
you say?
presumptions.
It's 48 and 21. All the others have a 3 in the number. And then down at the bottom, which is your biggest one?
The largest
Yep.
is 3.
Oh, number 3, yep, gotcha.
Yeah.
No, you got it, you got it. Okay, thank you. You can take that with you if you want to throw it out.
Oh,
Put it in the waste
geez.
basket.
I'll take the clipboard.
Thank you.
I guess I want points for not doing it with the calculator.
The purpose of it is just because, and I realize the computer does most of it, but there's just so many numbers we work with here, from the data cards to everything else. Just having some sort of familiarity of seeing some sort of sequence of numbers.
And sometimes,
And that was the whole purpose.
you know, like even, you can just know off the top of your head that that number's not right. If this is this, that's not that, you know,
Right.
just quickly.
That was the whole purpose of it.
Thank you.
You did good,
Thanks.
Yes, you did very well.
even for not having the
Not having the calculator.
In your present job, what traits or what skills do you use in your present job, what you understand about this job that you would carry over? And I realize you've never worked here, but you have enough, I think you might have a rough idea of what goes on here.
Yes.
So what skills do you think you'd be carrying over, using here, maybe in a different format or a different way when you're using it?
Primarily listening to people
Yeah.
and understanding what exactly they're asking or
Okay.
trying to tell you or
Okay.
wanting you to understand. I guess
Okay.
that's primarily it.
Okay.
And I work with a lot of international people. So
The area.
it very often
Yes.
is tough.
Okay.
And so I think, I mean, that's primarily, but you know, the knowledge
Mm-hmm.
on my end would be properties.
Right.
You know, from everything, from construction to raw to land development to,
Okay.
you know, convincing people that if you have 1 acre of land and it's worth 100,000, if you have 10 acres, it is not worth.
Now, where you work, it's a multi-person office. There's a number of you there.
Right.
This, in the building, is obviously multi-person, but this office is only one person. How do you think you'll feel or do in a one-person office?
Well, I not only have I been in a one-person office, but I've been working remotely for like 19 months.
Okay.
And actually, to go back to my other point of 2020, at a higher success rate than anyone who worked physically,
Okay.
all in the mix. You know, there's lots of distractions when you work with people, and I just find productivity, especially,
You're gonna find those here too.
you know, but you know, but especially when you gotta get through it all. I mean, there are distractions with telephones and everything like
Yes.
that, that's a given. But I like not having like office politics, that's the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. It's just, here's my work and I'm
You
gonna
can
get
buckle
it
down, do
done.
your own thing and.
Right, here's the work, get it done.
The person that was here previously, they did work remotely for a while during the severity of
We all
COVID.
did.
But then they came back, I think it was in June,
Mhm.
and so people are working back here in the office now.
Mhm.
And I gather you're still working remotely. Are you going to be comfortable coming into the office?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, because I understood the parameters,
Yes.
you know, what they were. Yeah,
And when they came back in June, that's when I'm going to use the word COVID was the spreading of it was the least. And so we did not have to wear masks for about a month. And then it was sometime in July, the Board of Health said we got to go back to masks. We're still going to work here, but we got to go back to masks.
Right.
And
So
so
when you're in your own area, you know, that's shut, people can come in. The clients don't actually come in the office,
Right.
they stay right
if they
there.
out there.
And so you're able to work efficiently in here with no mask on, if you're comfortable with it, of course.
Mhm.
And kind of do your own thing in your own area. And the others will do the same.
but when the public comes in,
The mask.
they have to wear a mask.
Right.
And when you go meet them, you have to really want to go into.
Exactly.
Okay, it just.
And there's plexiglass and stuff too, you can put up or take down, but sometimes I find that you open that so many times going in and out, because we have printers in here, our main big copier is out in the Board of Health section, so you do, move around, move about if you will. There's a kitchen, the bathroom, and so.
Just want to have you understand the, kind of the daily activity of what goes on and what would be expected that way. Not in your work, but in the building itself. And again, I don't think anything's going to happen right away, but we used to all be in one town hall, because this is half the town hall, and the other half is down on 202 on the left-hand side. But I don't see that happening right away, getting all back into one building. But we used to be all over, obviously.
All the time.
Yes, yeah. And so just want to tell you that kind of history of what's going on. Do you consider yourself a self-starter?
Yes.
Okay. What makes you think that? And can you give me a couple of examples of being a self-starter? Of explaining how you're a self-starter.
Well, I gave the example previously about, towns had a COVID,
Yes.
and then having to, so I was the initiator,
Okay.
so sometimes you've got to learn to, just because you've always done something this way, now how are we going to rethink this, reimagine it, to find our workaround, for doing that. So I had initiated that and then stayed on it, created templates, because it seemed like I was typing the same email over and over and over and over again. So I created the templates, and the dear XXX, just so you would be able to write the name in there. But just, quite frankly, I think that was responsible for 100%. Just creating things.
It's a lot more efficient.
It was so much more efficient.
Reinventing the wheel every time.
Every single time, doing the same. And that, in and of itself, being thrown like not last minute projects, but say things that had been planned or had always been done, and then there was a staff departure or something else, and I was in a position that I was kind of like a catch-all. Like, this person's not here anymore, do you think you could jump in and do this? Do you think you could, in circumstances that change?
Swiss Army knife is what you became to be.
Yeah, well, and in one project in particular, not only did the people leave that had been in charge, but they'd taken all the data with them.
So you were back to square one.
Worse, I was in a hole.
Right.
Because there was a level of expectation for the way something had been,
Right.
and it couldn't be that way. So it really required, a lot of, reaching out with no contact. I had no, it was, and again, it was extremely.
You had to create the wheel.
Yeah,
Instead of recreating it, you had to create
I was,
it.
exactly, and it became, I do have to credit Facebook with that success, as much as I can't stand social media. It was like I needed to get in touch with all, like, the advertising and marketing people within certain types of businesses. And I was like, but I don't know who they are, I don't have anything, it's only so many hours a day. And then I said, well, they're all on Facebook. They're the ones answering, those things. So that's how I reached out to them. And again, I was able to create templates to do that.
Right.
So it worked out amazingly well, good. And I am a self-starter, but I don't have a predetermined, I'm a self-starter, but if I'm involving other people, and it's more like, this is where we have to go, and this is how I think we should get there. That's not, this is where we have to get to. Do you have any ideas or everything else, or do you think my plan for getting there will work, and tell me where you think the hiccup, because sometimes people won't tell you it won't work. But if you say it differently, if you say,
Not what you say, it's how you say it.
well, you just say to them, here's my plan, can you tell me where the hiccups might come up? You get them to respond that way.
Right.
But if you just ask them, will my plan work or will it won't, they're not gonna tell you the truth. But, I mean, asking for input, being creative, doesn't not make you a self-starter because you're asking for input. To my way of thinking, it's better.
Okay.
Now, we know, I know we touched on it briefly last time in regards to licensing and obviously the other end of the spectrum. Now, and if this is something we move forward with, we could talk more in depth at one time or another. Would you be willing to not practice anymore if you came on for us?
Yeah, well, I haven't been, so.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, basically all I've done is refer. When
Right.
anybody's called me, you know, I think I explained that to you, I just refer.
Okay.
Yeah, my license is inactive, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But it could be reenacted.
It could be.
Because it's still
It
today.
could be. I got it, so
Yeah,
it could be,
right.
but it's not.
And just for other standards, obviously, if there was a client that had come in at one time or another, or anyone for that matter, asking for a referral, we just can't give them as an
No.
office, as a town, just so
Yeah.
you know.
Do you have questions for us?
Again, not at this point.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to just run out, just talk
No,
for the
that's
sake
fine.
of talking.
That's fine.
You know, all of my questions would come later.
I understand. That's perfectly fine. All right. I really want to thank you for coming in again.
Oh,
I really do. And again, you will not be left hanging. We will let you know
okay, thank you.
where we're at and what's going on.
Okay.
Again,
As soon as
it
we
may not be
get
quite
there.
as quick as it was this past week,
Mhm.
but it will take place. We're not going to leave it hanging.
Okay.
We're moving forward to fill the position.
Yeah, sooner rather than
And I
later.
realize you need 2 weeks' notice. We
Yeah.
accept that.
Take your sign down.
What sign?
Sign on the door.
Oh, September 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Awesome.
you're very welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Rick is not with us today, but we will again.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Thank you very much for coming back in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
A question I'd like to ask you is, without using names or the place of employment, can you describe your favorite type of supervisor and your least favorite type of supervisor?
Okay. I guess I prefer somebody who trusts that I know what I'm doing and makes me feel comfortable enough to ask questions when I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
the answer, but also doesn't micromanage.
Okay.
What
I understand what that word means.
Okay. So yeah, I guess that doesn't answer I guess I'm describing my perfect supervisor, but yeah, is that I feel comfortable enough to ask.
Okay.
Because I will, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to do something that I'm not confident in doing. I will absolutely ask. But I don't want to. Looking over my shoulder makes me anxious, and
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you either.
I just that they trust that I
Okay.
can get the job done, and if I can't, I'll
Okay.
ask.
What do you consider one of the most satisfying accomplishments in your working career?
I guess. So I'm naturally an introvert, and I guess in general, how much I you know, I stayed at home for a while. I had like, daycare and was in the house a lot. And so working with the public, how much I actually like working with the public and helping people, putting myself out there. So that's a huge accomplishment for somebody like me.
Okay.
And that I'm good at it.
Okay. Okay. So because of that, what I hear you saying is even though you're a natural introvert, you've learned to work in the public.
And that I
And you enjoy it.
Yes, that is surprising and definitely an accomplishment for someone like me.
Okay. That's wonderful. What do you consider one of your most embarrassing moments in a work situation that you've ever encountered?
So this was early on in COVID, and the masks had just, we had to wear masks, and it still cringes. I got the client though. So I met with them. They called on a listing that I had, and she flew in from North Carolina. I had only been dealing with her husband, who was an introvert, and through email. I talked to him on the phone once, and then everything was email, and the way you kind of follow their lead, and so if they're emailing you, that's how you communicate. But I was meeting with her, who I hadn't communicated with, and so we had the mask on, and she came with like her 3 kids, and I had no problem dealing with, the kids and stuff, and she had all these questions for me, and, I was answering them, and then all of a sudden, the mask was it was really difficult to read facial expressions, and I just got really choked up, and I totally blew the whole, it's not an interview, it's sort of like a buyer consult, it was awful, stumbling, and, it was to the point where, I was forgetting what I was going to say, and I basically was just I'm sorry, I don't even, I can't even explain what's happening right now, I have all these answers, and I just can't get it out, and she's like, oh, well, don't worry about it. These masks, it's so, you can't read facial expressions, but I was mortified, but we still, she got in the car, she followed me because she had the 3 kids with her, and we drove all around Western Mass and stuff, and it ended up fine, and I sold them a house in South Lake, and it was my biggest sale yet, but it was totally mortifying, but it was just getting used to communicating with, these.
So she was obviously up here looking for a home.
Right, yes, yeah. But she could have used it. She was actually working with an agent in Connecticut, also, and I don't know. She went with me anyway, regardless, but
Okay.
that was probably the most recent embarrassing thing.
Thank you for sharing that. None of us like to share stuff like that, but thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
As you probably realize, there's math involved, and just figures are involved here in the office, and obviously the computer does the vast majority of them, but we need to have some sort of a sense of sequence and what's going on with numbers and things like that. So we've made up a very short some questions here about math. You can take as much time as you want, and
Feel free to use a calculator.
and if you want to use a calculator on your iPhone, that's perfectly acceptable. We would just like you to look at those and take your time and answer as many or all of them as you want. And if it's not clear what it's asking for, please ask a question.
Just know I'm not great under pressure, but I do know how to Google, and you know what I mean, like problem solve just in on my own too.
Is that door locked?
You want it open?
No, is it locked?
I think it is.
The deadbolt.
Yeah. The deadbolt's locked.
It was shut last time, but it was never locked.
Oh, really?
I caught it before I left, and I think Greg may have shut it. Now that's.
wanna skip around, that's perfectly okay.
Should've got a coffee for this. It's been a long day. Just gonna step out real quick. Sorry about that.
Say it again?
Sorry about that. I said step out.
My turn next.
There you go.
Only I think I got mine shut off.
I kept mine out for Greg. Not that he'll call, but he says he's gonna. Meeting minutes? Meeting minutes?
Is it tonight?
Not for tonight, I'm just saying. Do you know if he's,
We'll just write something up briefly about the interview tonight. Anytime you want to stop, just tell us, it's perfectly fine.
Don't beat yourself over the head.
Okay, I can't figure this one. I mean, I'm sure I could if I had like a
You're
longer.
not the only one.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's start at the top. What do you have at the top, the first one?
64,
Yes, the next one,
243,
243, right?
yes.
Yep. Next one,
446,
yes. Which number is different from the others?
38,
Yep.
I didn't get that.
Which two numbers that do not belong?
I didn't get that one.
Okay, 48 and 21, because they don't have threes there. All the other numbers have threes.
Got it, okay. I definitely would have figured that out if I
Okay.
had longer, but yeah.
And then down below, which one is the largest?
Is 3,
Yep. And the smallest?
4.
Okay, very good. Okay. The
You did
whole
it.
purpose of that is just because we're gonna be, you're gonna be looking at numbers, whoever does this position is gonna be looking at numbers all the time. And so none of those were identical. They were slightly different. And that's what somebody's gonna be doing in this position. That's not all of it, because a lot of it's dealing with the public.
Right,
But when you're at the computer, it's numbers. And that's the whole purpose of it.
okay.
Okay. You can take that home, put it in the wastebasket, do what you want with it.
All right.
There's nothing special about it.
Okay,
Um, But I think it's indicative of what you're gonna be seeing
Right.
here.
to do it quickly.
No, whenever you pull that out, I'm like, oh, okay. Because I know how I would be if I was faced with that. I mean, you gotta buckle down and do
I mean,
it, and you've done it, you did, I mean.
I
Yeah.
created it this afternoon. I just like numbers. As you know, this is a single person office. Now, I realize in what you do, a lot of it is very individual work, what you do, but you do have an office back in South Hadley where there's more than one person there. And I'm not saying you not gonna see people here, you are, because the public's gonna come in, and you also see the other people in the other offices here. How do you feel about working in an office where you're the only one?
Oh, fine. Like I said before, I'm an introvert, so that's sort of in my natural element anyway.
Okay.
It actually probably helps me focus.
Okay.
Anyway.
And how would you feel if there's 2 or 3 people lined up there wanting to see you? Is they happen to all come in at the same time, but they're all different issues.
That's always what happens. It's never, it's fine. I'm also,
Okay.
I know how to, calmly interact with people.
I understand. I just wanted to give you a realistic picture of what's going to happen here, as best I can, And, obviously, there's going to be people in line, you may be serving or taking care of one of them, the phone's going to ring, and, you almost have to let the phone ring and take care of the person that's there, then call the other people back. Because there is a voicemail that'll come up, it'll be your voice, and just saying, that if you're busy, you call them back.
And that's how it was at the insurance agency also, believe it or not, where we were in Chicopee, the majority of the people came in like paying in person, and so that's how, it was there too, is that
Okay.
like the people who are in
Okay.
front of you are, and that's how it is in real estate, when you're out showing houses, you're not answering,
Right.
your phones when you're with a client,
Yeah.
so that's
Okay.
a lot of returning phone calls.
Yeah. Again, just trying to paint a picture
I appreciate that.
that's realistic of what can happen. And then you can go an hour or two without anybody coming here, and you're working on the computer, entering stuff into the computer, because it would be you that would be entering it, And some of it is things that we would bring in from the field, and some of it is just information that needs to be updated as we go through different phases of the season, and various forms need to be filled out. So it's a common. There is a flow to this job. We don't do car excise taxes all year round. There's a certain season of the year we do the majority of them. People filing abatements, there's a 30-day period for that. It doesn't happen all year round. People filing for disability or low income, that happens in a certain period of time. It doesn't happen year round. So there is
Yes, motor
literally,
vehicle abatements would though.
there's
That would be
literally,
the only abatement year round we would have to
yeah,
deal with.
there's literally a flow of what happens here. And it's kind of learning the flow and learning how to do each piece, and then you probably won't do much of it till 9 months later. And just so you're aware of that. That's what takes place here. Do you have,
Obviously, like we talked about previously, being licensed at the other end of the spectrum in your work, we would definitely, if we were to offer you the job, you took it and you started working here, there's a very fine line when it comes to referring people. If an appraiser or there was clients in the office or whoever way of ask, hey, do you know, reputable agent, yada, 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 that would just be something internally that we wouldn't be able to refer, obviously.
Okay.
Just so you know, you couldn't say.
What was the example? Just
if someone were to, say a client or a taxpayer were to come in asking for a referral to, you know, do you know someone, yada, 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 in your line of business.
okay, so nothing.
You can't refer, yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good to
And
know.
and that's just relaying back to them, you know, we're sorry, we can't refer, you know,
Okay.
anyone. And that just keeps, you know, both sides of the.
It
you
makes
know,
sense, yeah, but
So
if
there's not a
that's good to,
conflict, yeah, right.
good to know, because
Yes,
I'm a helper, so
Yeah.
I would,
Right.
right.
and then there are, because you don't have the course background or the experience in being an assessor, there are courses that the Department of Revenue puts on, and when you go up to UMass and take them, they're 1-week courses. There's four days of class, one morning and afternoon, then an exam on Friday. But they're also now online, and I don't know how long they're going to stay online, but right now they're online. And so, you would get paid to take those classes, and I guess I would say and be expected to pass them. And then if you didn't pass one, you would have to take it again before you can go to the next one, because they are sequential. And I believe there's 6 of them. And then the final one is a test of accumulation of all of the courses. And that's when somebody gets the designation of assistant assessor here in Massachusetts.
You could bring it in and hang it on the wall with the rest of them.
So that would be our desire for you to go through that process, just so you know that.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
And,
It would make me feel better about it.
Yeah, and you just, and because what you learn, each one of them kind of lines up with a phase that I just got talking about, how we have different phases. Each one of them kind of lines up with a different phase of the office and what happens. And because you're taking the class and then going through that phase, whenever you go through it, it just lights up and makes it much easier for you, so you understand what you're doing. And we, as Board of Assessor members, are only required to take the first one, the first class, in order to continue on the Board of Assessors. But we're invited to take more than that first one, and it just makes us more knowledgeable when we come to meetings and things like that. Because the person in the office would be making the agenda, determining what needs to come to the meeting. We actually make the final decisions, but the person would be bringing the agenda to us and suggesting or asking what we need to do, and suggesting what we should do in some situations. Just so you're aware of that.
I don't know if it was clear last time or not, and the reason I'm going to repeat it again is because someone had asked it previously. This job position that we're hiring for reports directly to the 3 board members of the board. You do, as we are a split town hall, the annex up here, and then the town administrator and the assistant town administrator of the other building. So say you had to leave early for any reason, you would notify the 3 of us, and then also send an email down to Kathy, letting her know that you're leaving for payroll end of it. So there are certain things we file annually that you will be involved with the town administrator, but on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week, we sign your
Time slips.
thank you. Time slip and so on, so you report directly to us.
Okay.
Just so I don't know if that was made clear or not last time, but there's another candidate that asked that question, so I just want to be clear with everyone.
Okay.
Just so you know.
We do your evaluation and things like that, because it's really to the 3 of us.
Right.
And we're elected for 3-year terms, so each one of us is up for re-election once every year, one of us every year. So the three of us can potentially change or do change, you know. Greg and I have been on for a while. Dakota just got elected this past spring. But
Realistically, whoever sits on the board shouldn't affect your day-to-day activities.
Right.
You know, essentially,
That's a true statement.
just so you know. We may come and go, but you will always be here if you would. You know, so.
Right. Do you have questions for us? Either things we haven't explained well, or things we haven't even maybe touched on that you want to ask about?
I mean, I think that the job description and like the culture and what you've explained it makes a lot of sense and I appreciate it. And
Okay.
when are you looking to fill the position? I'm just curious.
Can you speak up just a little bit? I'm sorry.
When are you looking to fill the position?
We hope to, we don't have a specific date,
Okay.
but we're not going slow.
It may seem like we are, but realistically, we'd like to fill this position as soon as possible. Obviously, giving the selected candidate time, like a notice if they needed to a previous
Right.
employer,
Okay.
or just to tie up loose ends before you start. We get that.
Okay.
I know when we hired the previous employee, she was kind of in a mix of a couple different things, and she was able to tie up some loose ends, but still come in a couple days a week. To kind of, regain control of the office in a way. So I think that would be something we can offer if that suits your needs.
Okay.
Within those 2 weeks, if possible. But that's, I guess we'd have to talk about that as a board.
We don't expect you to treat your current employer unfairly.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
That's
We don't want you to start tomorrow. We'd love you to, but, or anyone for that matter,
That's
whoever
just-
gets the job. But
Yeah, that's just not the
we
way to do things.
we realize that notice is needed to be given.
okay.
So does that answer that?
Yes,
Does
it
that help
does.
you?
Yes,
Okay.
that was my concern of
Okay.
like lining things up. For
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
inspections.
We, and when we're, just like last week, only last week we really made a decision quite quickly to have you come back for a second interview. We will not leave you hanging. We will tell you what's going on.
Okay,
and-
thank
and-
you.
And where you stand in the process. We will not leave you hanging.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
And so
Our hope is to do these second round interviews and then hopefully, to a degree, figure out
But
what angle we're going.
I certainly hope by the end of the month at the latest, we will
Yes.
have made a decision
Okay.
and be offering the job to somebody.
Okay.
Right.
Great. That's good.
Just so you're aware of that. The holidays here are town holidays. They're set. What days that is. I actually have a list here if it means anything to you right now, but we can talk about that later on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not
Okay,
worried
but I
about
just want you to be aware
Okay.
of that. Okay. If you don't have anything for us and other questions, I really want to thank you for coming in for a second time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm
I-
glad that I got called back.
Well, I'm really glad you came back. I really am.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome. I'll walk you out.
All right.
And we will be getting back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And I only came in because he walked into, I don't know if you, did you tell
Did you hear
him?
that story, Dakota?
The one you're going to tell me?
Yeah.
No.
You're gonna hear it
I had
the
to
first
go. I
time.
had to go and talk to the building inspector in the town of Belchtown, and he was late coming back from lunch, and his secretary was not anywhere around. And I said, "Well, the board of assessors right next door. Let's just go and chat with them." And I was chatting with them on the Atlas program that we had heard about, and I spoke at huge length with Zach, the assistant assessor over there. And then I'm just shooting the breeze with these girls on what they think of the Atlas program. And lo and behold, Kathy said, maybe I'll go over and see what's
Well,
what.
he came in once and he was talking to Jen, and
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of the wall, so he doesn't even know I
Yeah, I
exist.
didn't even know she was there.
And then when he came in
You
the
can't
second,
hear. You
She
can't
was
not hear
hiding,
Greg
she
talk.
was hiding from that creepy old guy and begging him to go away.
And
As long as he doesn't give you that creepy wave, you're good.
Yeah.
yeah, well, he came in a second time. I said, "Oh, we got to get rid of this guy."
Yeah. You're not the first
And,
person that's thought
Yeah,
that.
when I heard it, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna check into it," because as you see from my resume, I was in Wilbraham for 15 years. Absolutely loved Wilbraham. Loved it. Worked with Manny Silva. I went in there.
Yeah, Manny's a character.
Manny's a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
He does a great job
yeah.
for the,
He and now
Association.
he's consulting with
Yeah.
Bishop, and
Yeah.
because there's such a
and that's a
shortage.
no-brainer.
Yeah, well, they've been
Yeah.
friends forever.
Yeah.
And they've worked. You know, we've had Bishop out in Wilbraham forever, and it's a really good situation for them. They've been out in Palmer for a little while, cleaning up Palmer a little bit. I know your Carrie Ann's out there. Yeah, we have a tight community.
Yeah.
And everybody
When
knows
you're in the
everybody.
business, you know who's in the business.
Absolutely.
We have a tight community, and still, I wish more people would show up at holiday functions,
Yeah,
just to
Yeah.
shoot the breeze,
yeah.
just to see what's what.
COVID has been horrible.
Yeah.
Wilbraham, we used to go, Manny was fantastic about bringing the whole team, you know. And
Right.
of course, he was the president of the Hampshire Hamden,
Yeah.
and we did the raffles and stuff like that. And I thought that was wonderful, because when you get your whole team out there,
Yeah.
they feel involved.
Yeah.
And when they feel involved, they learn to network. And
Yeah.
when they network, they get on the horn when something's going on. And
something's not right.
It's the only way to get your job done is to network, because you can't sit here by yourself and expect to know all the answers.
Right.
You've got to have
Yeah.
go-to people. And that's how you live and learn. And when I first started in Wilbraham, like I said, I knew absolutely zero. And I came from banking, that's why they hired me in management. And so I went into Wilbraham, and I didn't know what ATM meant. I thought automatic teller machine, you know, CPA, I thought certified public accountant.
Yeah.
So Wilbraham trained me, and it was a phenomenal experience. Loved every second of it. Sad he retired.
Yeah. Yeah.
But otherwise.
Is there a reason why you left Wilbraham?
Yeah, there is. When Manny left, it was almost a sure thing I was going to be the assessor there, and I'll be honest, I was appointed, and then I backed out. And I backed out for reasons. There's a lot of change going on. The board was, and I'm not trying to be
You don't have to sugarcoat it.
okay.
We get it.
They were fluffing their feathers too much,
Right.
and we
How do you fluff
negotiated.
feathers?
Well, we negotiated
You're a
in
turkey guy.
yeah, showing their power, I should
Right,
say.
yeah.
And
Let me show you how smart I am.
yeah, and Manny being there 30 years, you know,
Did it a different way.
always knew how to do everything. So of course, me going in, I'd be a little less seasoned. But with a great backup,
Yeah.
you know, to call me any,
Yeah.
I mean, in a heartbeat, you know. Anyways, we negotiated, and there was a lot of that going on, and then we got all settled, and I got sworn in, and 4 days later I went down to HR, and I'm talking to HR about a couple of things, and I said, well, next year that'll be X, Y, and Z. And she says, oh no, that didn't get approved. And I said, yeah, it did. And she says, nope, it didn't. And I said, okay, then what do we do about it? She said, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. And I said, okay, watch me. And I walked down and I got unsworn, and I said, post it again. And they did, and they brought in Dave Zagorski. And
Sounds
Dave,
familiar, yeah.
I actually think he may
He
have
did.
worked here. Okay, so you know who Dave is.
All of
There was a lot of how can I say this? Conflict of interest. going on.
Misconceptions.
Conflict
at the
of
very
interest, big time going on there, and they had me monitoring Dave. They turned his screen for me to watch. There was a lot of yuck going on. So I happened to come upon Belchertown. They had posted out, and it was my sister.
So at that point, he was your boss.
Oh, he came in after, and that was fine with me.
Right.
Because I'm like, you know, I I had my own business before, and if you look at my resume, I came from banking. I'm very good at, this is business and this is personal.
Right.
I'm the one that chose to back out. So
Right.
when Dave came in, you know, I'm right there, whatever you need, Dave. They're question marking the situation and having me monitor things was improper.
At the very least.
Yeah. And so, anyways, Belchertown came up, and so I wasn't pounding the pavement to leave. You
Right.
know, I still love Wilbraham, and I still do love Wilbraham. But when Belchertown came up, it was, believe it or not, more money with less responsibility.
Right.
More money per hour.
Right.
With less responsibility and 5 more hours a week. What a great little part-time job.
Right.
You know, it's what I thought. And I know Jay. And so I put in there a month after their closing date, and I said, they're never gonna call me, you know? And they didn't. I had a good conversation with Jay, and obviously got hired.
How many hours do you work now?
40,
40.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're full-time.
yeah. And before
So
I...
you were 35 in Wilbraham.
Wilbraham was 35, yeah. And when I left Wilbraham February 19th, Friday, following Tuesday, they let go of Dave. Called me back on Thursday. And
Hat in
basically...
hand?
Huh?
Hat in hand?
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes there's too much dirty water under the bridge. And I said, you know, no offense, I would go in and help them, absolutely.
Right.
Because that's the way I am. I've always been that way. But I didn't want to, there was bad blood as far as, not in talking with each other, but just, I didn't trust. That's probably the better way to put it. I didn't trust, and I wasn't going to go back
You
into
don't
the
need it.
situation, right? And it's, you know, Belchertown has turned out okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not pounding the pavement again. You just walked into the door,
Right.
and I said, wow, let's go take a look.
Yes.
You know, so that's what I'm here for, is to
What,
see what you guys are looking for, and if we have any type of
Right.
match, you know.
What do you do as a, I know there's obviously bullet marks here, but what is a technical assistant in an assessor's office?
In
Or you're not-
Belchertown?
Yeah.
Like I said, I went to Belchertown, now I have less responsibility and more
Right.
money.
How
Which,
many people are in that office?
5.
Okay.
We have a total of 4 full-time.
4 more than us.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are a one-man
Yeah,
band
yeah,
here.
yeah. We think it sounds pretty good though.
What, the 5 or the 4?
The band.
Oh. Yeah. Well, you know, when you have a one-man band, you've got to have good organization, that's for
Right.
darn sure. Because I'm impressed that you guys have been handling this place since September 2nd. Am I
Let's
correct?
go with that.
Yeah.
Let's go with that,
Okay,
until we correct it.
okay, well, you've been closed since
Yes.
September 2nd.
Yes.
Which tells me, and my assumption could be incorrect, but you guys are a working board.
Yeah, for the most part.
You get a small nod there.
Or we go out to see all the properties.
Oh, okay, so you do the inspections?
Yes, we do
Okay,
all of them.
that's great, that's
The permits
wonderful.
and the cyclical
Okay, wow,
and abatements,
okay,
everything.
okay. Now, would I be going out with you on any of those?
We were actually trying to have our assistant
Yeah.
assessor go out with the building inspector when he issued an occupancy permit, but he's been difficult.
Okay,
And he's got no interest in trying to run his schedule with our schedule.
yeah,
He's a bit of a loose cannon also. I mean, a typical employee who's on the last career path. And he's not putting
Wants to
out
do his own
100%. He's
thing.
not putting out 100%. He's putting out enough to get the job done.
okay.
We can't even get him
So
to
we'd
reach
love
out
to
to us.
do new construction. We'd love to do a whole, you know.
Our latest idea was when he goes out to issue an occupancy permit that
We'd all meet.
we'd
there.
all go with him and get all that
Which is an
information.
excellent time to do it.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
because they gotta let him in.
yeah.
Right,
give him the
so we're gonna be
occupancy.
with them.
So, exactly. The only thing is, you know, from what I understand, by law, they have to be informed that we're following suit.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that the residents of
And
the
maybe that's
taxpayers
why
would
he
have an
balked.
issue,
I don't either.
Right.
but it was more him having the issue, not the taxpayers.
Yeah, I know that Sturbridge goes out with their inspector, and I think that that's a
A lot of
phenomenal thing.
communities do, and I think
Yeah.
it's beneficial
After the
to
fact,
us.
it's just so
It's
much
actually
tougher.
safer too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, out in Wilbraham, you know, with Manny and myself, we did almost all the field work and all the work. We hired
There's-
Bishop and Associate
Right.
on our reval years.
Right.
And Roy would come in and overlook our personal property and look at our commercial, industrial, reset our tables, things of that nature. But Manny had so much experience, he had it
Right.
all. So.
There was just
with-
2 of you in Wilbraham?
No, there's 4.
4.
Yeah, so there was 4 full-timers, but then way back they cut down to a part-timer for the excise. And in Wilbraham, it's very different working atmosphere than Belchertown. I had a fantastic staff and we cross-trained like crazy, like
That's good.
in the
Yeah, it's
drawers.
important.
Oh, it's huge because in this field,
Right.
if you have one person doing your excise and knowing it all, and she gets sick or has to go on leave or whatever.
Then what do you do?
Exactly. And so,
And Bill just had that conversation earlier.
yeah, and you have to have instructions.
Right.
Like, you know, in front of our chapter lane, first folder in front of every category is your instructions and your spreadsheets and your reports.
Right.
This way, if you had to come in and take a look at it,
It's
you'd be
there.
able to pull out the 3 ABCs and say, yeah, we're right here with this. Yep, she's got all these in. We have all the PCs and the 990s. You want to be organized, and that's why I said I'm a little impressed that you guys have been taking care of it.
Well, this will be I'm gonna accept your praise, and it'll probably be the last time you give it to us. Let me put it
You're
that
saying
way.
we because Greg has a mouse in his pocket.
Yeah.
Well, you guys got to be doing something. Here's how you,
I admit-
Well-
you're processing your excise. You
Yeah.
had to pull in your chapter land applications.
Right.
I'm assuming you guys have quite a bit of chapter land.
Yeah.
Only because you have quite a bit of land. And
Yes.
you don't have, you've got what, 3,500 parcels?
3,100.
Okay. And about 6,500 in population? Okay. Because I've been doing my research a little bit, as you
Right.
can tell. And, you know, I looked at your guys' budget and what your values are, and you bring, like most other assessor's office, you bring in over half the budget
Right,
on a one-man band.
yeah.
Yeah, impressive.
And we're trying to get reconciliation of that fact. Particularly with the turnover that we've had. We're sick of the turnover as much as anybody would be.
Absolutely, yeah. In train, that's the one thing I fought for in Wilbraham. I said, I lost one girl to accounting.
Right,
Okay, she was my excise girl and she went down, she became the accounting clerk. I had her for almost, 18 months, so phenomenal girl. She only left the office because it was paying more.
Right.
You know, they were paying 2 grades higher than the assessor's clerk.
Right.
how does that make sense?
Took her 3 months to learn her job in accounting. She came down to me, she says, Kath, I'm twiddling my thumbs down there.
Right.
She says, this is crazy. It takes 2 years to get yourself somebody decent
Yeah,
that's been green. It takes 5 years to know an assessor's office inside and out. And then you're still learning on a constant
Right.
basis. You are
Yeah.
never done learning in the assessor's office. And so I don't know why, and you can see it in the MAA right now with the ticker tape machine that's running in the assessors. Everybody's retiring and nobody's coming in
Yeah.
because the other jobs
Pay more.
are, they
simple.
pay more or they're simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, do you want to be, come on, let's face
And then you
it.
have Greg's famous line. No
Which one?
one's ever,
Huh?
no one's ever
I forget what it is.
born.
Yeah, no one's ever born knowing how to be an assessor.
No, or nor do you ever
Or wanting to
say
be one.
wanting to be one. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
No one
Like,
ever
what-
wants to be an assessor.
Well, and let's face facts, they come to the collector's office. They don't like their bill. What do? Go see the assessor.
Yeah.
You know? I don't like my excise. Go see the assessor.
Yeah.
You know, there's a constant go see the assessor for
Yeah.
the complaints. So you have to have A, thick skin to be in this business. B, it's like being a nurse. You better like it.
Yeah.
Because, well, really, you know, you either like it or you don't like it. Because
It's a tough, undervalued job,
it
all the way around.
is, and I don't understand the MAA not saying we have got to get an increase in the salaries because it takes 5 years to get somebody seasoned, and you don't want to lose somebody after 2 years.
Right.
To the accounting department.
Right.
To twiddle their thumbs.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that is just maddening from word go.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm a right fighter type of person.
Good
so-
for you.
Sorry about
Good for
that.
You can advocate for yourself, that's what all matters.
Well, you know, the thing is I also come into an interview because I know you guys are sizing me up and I'm sizing you up. And it's because you want to make sure that when you walk in, you know what you're walking into.
Right.
I always think, me personally, that you always need 2 interviews because the first interview is a little nerve-wracking. The second interview is usually more casual and you really
Right.
start to see the person.
Right.
Municipalities don't tend to do that. You know, and
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how, like in Wilbraham, the Human Resources runs the whole thing. They run the questions.
Right. And they don't
everything.
even know what
They
to
give you a
do.
list.
Yeah, they don't know what to do.
And then, you know, you go around and everybody asks one question, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Lord, help me.
Yeah.
And I used to always walk everybody out so that I could have 3 minutes of time.
Right. Which is a lot more valuable than anything else
They
to
didn't
do.
like that, but that's the way I could pick out who
Yeah.
fit
Yeah.
into the office, you know, because that matters too. And then you need your strength in different areas, you know. But
How would your current boss describe you?
Jay or Manny? Jay, I don't know. Jay's office is real quiet. I've only been there about 8 months. Manny would say very organized, very detailed, occasionally to a fault.
We are human.
Huh?
We are human.
Yeah, exactly. Manny would absolutely say Manny and I's relationship after our first 3 years of getting used to each other became very, very comfortable. I take care of as much as I possibly can. He would only get the things that I couldn't take care of. And
Good for you
he
and
was,
him, though.
he was a fantastic
Yeah.
teacher, knowledgeable, and so, you know, I consider I learned from one of the best. I really did.
Yeah, he's a
you
lot
know?
like Roy.
Yeah, you know.
They're almost twins.
I could not, and Manny always told me, keep it simple, Kath. That was their motto. Keep it simple. Be consistent. It's like reading the Bible.
Yeah.
You interpret the law the way that you interpret it. You stay consistent, and you stay consistent with everybody, whether it's a resident applying for an excise bill or the Board of Selectmen applying for an excise abatement. You want the same documentation, no favoritism to anybody, because it's your job, you know, and your retirement, you know, let's face some facts, you know. So, that being said, you know, Manny was all about the residents too, because one of the things we told people
Well,
when
it
we
needs to
hired
be.
them.
It
Well,
definitely needs to be.
this isn't like Home Depot and Lowe's.
Right,
You don't like
exactly.
Home Depot, you go to Lowe's.
Right.
Somebody walks in here, you want them to like us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the last thing in the world we want is somebody being cranky
Right.
and coming back and then out
Or sometimes
there.
you can't help, but.
No, but most of the time you can talk them off the cliff,
Right,
seriously.
right.
A lot of the times you can, if you explain to people why we do what we do and explain that we are out.
Educate them.
Yeah.
Right.
Then nobody wants to pay taxes,
Of
let's
course.
face that fact. But if you understand it, they usually walk away happy, you know?
Right.
And sometimes I find when somebody comes in and they're just on the edge, it's really not us they're mad at.
No, they're just taking it out on us.
Exactly.
We're just the person
We're
there.
the punching
Yeah,
bag.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I mean, we had the one story I always tell people is I had one of my girls was brand new Sue. She wasn't there a week. And a lady comes in and she's got an excise issue. And it's really her son's issue. And she's mad at a hat. And there was just no getting that girl off the cliff. And she walked away, giving me the one finger wave and yelling an obscenity on her way out the door. And I remember I said her name and I said, please come back when you're calmer, because really you don't want this to get out of control, because excise is a terrible animal. 2 days later, the lady showed up with flowers, all apologetic. I wasn't there to receive them, but you know, I told Sue, I said, this is just normal, but she had something else going on in her life.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we were what she.
And
had
excise
hit.
is pretty crazy.
Excise
Caught in the
fees
crossfire.
are rotten.
Yeah.
They're rotten.
Of course
That
they are.
animal, and then they get you at the registry, you know, so you can't
Right.
run away from it.
No.
You know, it is a terrible animal, but when you explain it to people
Yeah.
and you get it to them, you know, they usually do understand, you know, but we work in a funny, funny situation. We're the ones that tell the values, everybody blames the taxes on us, and it's not us, it's the
Right.
town meeting. You
Yeah.
vote for what
Yeah.
you want, we get a fair
Right.
fair value on your house,
Right.
and do it at the highest best use, and don't buy a house you can't afford.
Right.
Say that.
We've had several of those discussions.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, and somebody wants to tell me how much they're working to pay their taxes. I get that.
yeah, I do.
Me too. What do you think I'm doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I get it too, and then the funniest time is when somebody comes in complaining about their value, and they pay more than what we have it valued at. That
You're right.
the girls used to laugh because I'd stand there and say, "Okay, we've got you valued at $480. You just paid $550, but you don't think it's worth $480." You know?
Well, and-
stop them dead in their tracks.
And the fun thing now, from this point moving forward, is I get to blame real estate agents.
And,
Appraisers.
thank you.
I can stop that. I can stop that,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Because now I have.
Well, no,
to vote on the
actually,
board.
because the
Are you a real
appraisers,
estate?
I
Are you
am.
an
The appraisers
Yes.
determine the value. You can sell your house for whatever, but it has to appraise.
Exactly, exactly.
So it's not just us.
You know, don't you love people that say, they come in and say, well, my wife really wanted the house.
Right.
We had a
So that's why we
situation
paid
just like that.
$100,000.
We
on it.
determine
We had a
fair market value.
we had a
based
situation
on
that went to
proof
the,
was in the pudding.
Appeals board, and the homeowner won, and he was a jerk, and he told the board, it was a Zoom meeting, obviously, said the only reason I paid that kind of money was because my wife wanted it. And somehow or another they bought it, and
That's
I
crazy
was-
though.
I swear to God.
Yeah, I know. When they take it to the HEB at that point,
Right,
you rest
I'm
on.
glad that we ran him through the ringer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you rest on your values and the
Yeah.
HEB makes a decision and then
That's
we
it.
say, okay, because it's not
Yeah.
personal, it's business, you
Yeah.
know? And it's not that you're not giving the person the abatement, our sales prove this.
Yeah.
This is why we're where we're at.
Yeah.
And so we can't justify it, especially if you've just purchased the house.
And he's a full-time appraiser.
You
like that, huh?
Yeah.
You like that,
Of
huh?
course he's gonna take you to the HEB.
Bill had fun with that.
Yeah. So you're a real estate agent or an appraiser?
I'm not an appraiser, no.
He's a real estate
But he
agent.
likes to throw that in my ballpark, and I always give
Because
him
he's
that.
in our club
It's
now.
funny because it depends on the meeting who he's blaming. He
Yeah.
goes back and forth. Today it's me.
Now, do you like being a real estate agent?
Yes.
In today's market, you gotta be doing good,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? I mean, yesterday's world a little while ago was slower than slow and hard to sell, but now.
We'll eventually get back there.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, the bubble's
Yeah.
gonna pop again. Give it 2
Yeah.
years and we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be back to where we were in 2006 and 2008, you know?
Yeah,
And then,
absolutely.
you know, then we have about a 2-year time when the bubble pops that abatements are crazy because we're a year and a half behind.
Yeah.
So the values are high still because we haven't seen the sales come down yet.
Right.
That's a fun time. That
Yeah.
was an interesting time. And
Well,
that's-
what generally happens is that the year before I run for reelection, the tax rate goes down. And the year that I run for election, the tax rate goes up. It's been that way forever. It's just
And they keep
the
voting you in.
craziest thing. Yeah. It's crazy.
Now, can I ask a question?
Right,
How long have each one of you been on the board?
27 years, I think, maybe more.
Okay, good.
What's the question?
How long have you been on the board?
19.
Wow, that's wonderful.
This is my first year.
Okay, welcome aboard. Wow, so you've had 2 seasons.
Right.
That's good.
Well, and the thing that's,
That's good
yeah.
because you guys know the town.
Right, and we had a peculiar situation in that, with the 3 of us that were on the board, we all knew different sections of the town.
Right.
Bill, because his career was, he owned his own insulation business,
Okay.
so he knew most of the homes.
Construction.
in the town, and I used to be in construction and up in Amherst, that swamped this town. And we had Mike Buckley at one point, who was just an old school, grew up from a kid. I mean, it's not that big a town for
No.
a kid to grow, to be familiar with everybody.
Yeah.
Not only every house, but everybody who was in the house.
Right.
So you don't want to lose that kind of knowledge. And that's really the only reason why we stuck with it.
Yeah.
That we know the inside of most every house in Granby.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
not,
having experience in the town is incredible.
Yeah.
I will tell you what I miss from working in Wilbraham. I miss somebody walking in my office and they say such and such property on Ridge Road, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got it, that, you
Yeah.
know, such and such
yeah,
property.
that's
you know?
priceless.
It is priceless. It saves an enormous amount of
Yeah.
time researching and looking up and guessing and going backwards. So that's probably the thing I miss the most
Right.
is the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Hamden,
Yeah,
so I knew Wilbraham,
Yeah.
you know. So that was just lucky, and I live in Munson now, which I love Munson. As far as living there, it's a nice, quiet
Yep.
little town. I was in Palmer for a while, but Palmer's an interesting little world.
I have no idea what's going on in Palmer, but
Oh, it's an interesting
It's-
little world,
yeah.
you know. But
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, work-wise?
absolutely in assessing. I will not be leaving.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, you know, like I said, it's like a nurse's job. You either love it or you don't, you know, and I'm very comfortable in it now. It's like banking was to me way back when I was young like you. I just can't express it. It's just something I do love doing, you know, otherwise I'd be out of it, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And I was very fortunate. I've always
Right.
been very fortunate. So,
Bill?
Without using names or places of employment, can you describe to us your favorite supervisor and your least favorite supervisor?
well, Manny's on my top of my board, my
Yeah.
list. I can honestly tell you, I have been extremely blessed with all my supervisors, even in banking. I've just been one of those lucky people that when I've gotten a job, I've stayed put. And out in Chicago, I was working for a commercial bank. Then I was young back then, and they gave me a whole lot of responsibility, and I learned a lot. My least, right, I can honestly say is it's not personality, like I don't like the person, it's the structure that's in the office. I wouldn't be looking to leave Belchertown if I loved Belchertown. Belchertown is very, in Wilbraham, when you walked in the door, the whole town hall, and it was good morning, grab your
warm
coffee,
welcome,
you know, how's the wife, how's the kids, you know, you knew you had a relationship because of communication. And it was a happy-go-lucky type of communication. Jay likes his office quiet, and I am talking dead quiet. And we all work behind that wall. And Jay's a wonderful assessor. You know, he knows his assessing field. He's great with the ATB. I've heard him on the phone. He knows his town. Got nothing negative to say about Jay and his work. It is me. You walk in the morning, all you do is say
Thanks
good
for a
morning.
long day.
Yeah, everybody just says good morning. You stare at a wall,
And that's
And
until you go
you-
home.
and there's little conversation until Jay leaves the office, and then everybody chatters. But if, like, when you came in, and I don't know if you even heard it in the background, if we're talking to you too much, Jay gets upset. He starts grumbling, and he won't. And I'm very used to being on the phone with my attorneys
bizarre.
and saying, you know, hey, what's happening? I've got a problem with a deed. You know, it looks like we need a scrivener's affidavit. And having a friendly rapport.
Right.
Because I was just dealing with Molly from one of the attorney's offices by email, because I had talked to her and told her I can't talk on the phone. So we were emailing back and forth because they divorce two parcels. had one and then they bought another and they merged them together. Well, in the divorce, they gave the property to the husband, but they only gave him half of it. And I said, well, the good news is he's got the house. Bad news, she can set up her RV next to him, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, but what I'm getting at is the rapport with people, when they know you and you're talking and you're casual, you get a better result. You know, you get better service, and, you know, Molly couldn't have been happier. She said, thanks for bringing that to our attention, Kath, you know, and because I will tell you, deeds that come through, it's
We're
just
crystal clear.
amazing how
Crystal
bad they
clear.
are sometimes, you know? It's like amazing what
People get paid a lot of money to produce that deed.
they do.
A lot of money.
I agree. That's probably my biggest complaint. And then it comes into our office, and we're supposed to be
Yeah.
the keeper of deeds. And
I'm not real fond of the registry of deeds, quite frankly. But
I'll tell you, we're lucky we've got the internet though,
Yeah.
because you can go back and research things out
Yeah.
like crazy.
Before you couldn't.
My issue is the time it takes us to do that with the attorney should have done it.
Yeah.
You know, there should be
Yeah.
maybe 3 or 4 a year that you're calling on.
That's it.
Out
Yeah.
of 40 deeds, you're calling on about 6.
Yeah.
You know, it's
That's-
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you can't get mad, because what are you going to do?
Yeah, he
And
doesn't
then the
care.
attorney's been paid. They don't want to
Yes,
deal with
that's
your
right.
scrivener's
Yeah,
affidavits,
or-
or,
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
want to do
For
the
the right
correct
dollar
things.
amount, they will.
Yeah, well, then, no, what you do is you send a nice letter to the new owner of the property, and you tell them that there's an issue, and they will contact the
Yeah,
attorney, and
let
then
them do
something
it.
gets done.
Yeah.
You know, so you try the attorney first, for that it keeps quiet from the person, you know, for that the attorney doesn't look bad.
Right.
And if the attorney's not gonna pay attention, a nice letter goes out to the homeowner saying, we have an issue, you may wanna talk to your attorney about getting a correction, you know? And you always word it where,
It's up to you.
yeah, and we're not telling them for sure, it appears that there's an issue. You know, and I think you should talk to your attorney, you know, because you can't say, hey, the attorney messed up, and then,
Right,
you know,
right.
God forbid
Pointing
you're wrong.
fingers.
You know? But, so yeah, it's an interesting job. Like I said, we never learn everything. We never know everything. It's impossible to know it all. So you have to have a great network system.
So you have a multi-person office now. How would you feel coming down? Obviously, you were attracted to the position, that's why we're here. How would you feel being the one-man band, doing everything, when once you may have delegated to others? Obviously, you know it, but you had
Yeah.
other staff.
Well, you have other staff because you have a larger,
Right.
we had over 6,000 parcels. We, meaning the staff, did the inspections and stuff. The board, we did not have a working board. We had a signatory board. And I think they went out on, seriously, in my 15 years, maybe 4 inspections.
Wow.
Because it was the big monster homes and they wanted to see them.
Right.
You know, the
Right.
fun thing, you know? But they didn't need to go out because they had Manny, you know? So downsizing to doing it all again, for me, it's not a big deal, you know, because again, in Wilbraham, with my staff, it was nobody's done till everybody's done. There was not this is not my job. Now, the lowest clerk obviously wouldn't do my work, but
Right.
if she was done, she would help filing or working on the spreadsheets or something. And vice versa, when she had commitment 1, and she was straight out the door because we had 16,000 bills go out,
Right.
then it was all hands on deck to get them processed as quickly as possible and
Right.
get them to the board, you know? So that's not an issue, you know? And plus, there's a little bit of comfort with doing a piece of the job all the time, because otherwise you get complacent and you don't know how, you know, you go to do an excise abatement and you're like, God, I forgot how to do this, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we didn't have that issue in Wilbraham. I do have that issue in Belchertown. They are very, you do your job. And there's where I'm worried about losing my edge, because I love what I do in Belchertown. I do the mapping and I do the deeds and I help get the legal files out for the billing. That's it. What I don't like is I had told Jay before I started, I want to keep my MA certification. I want to keep doing classes. I'm getting a little bit of, exemption classes coming up. And, well, you don't do exemptions, Kathy, you don't need to go. Okay, that wasn't our agreement,
Right.
and I intend on keeping my hands in all of it, because
You
I,
need to. I mean, that gives you job security no matter what
and
happens.
he should want it in his staff,
Right.
you know, I
This
mean,
is
because
a-
I
There's a
wanted,
philosophical thing going on there.
yeah, I love the whole staff knowing as much as possible. Even my lowest clerk didn't know how to process a 3 ABC, but she knew how to take it, pull it apart, make sure we had the 990 to PC
Right.
and had everything in there. And so if somebody asked her a question, she may not be able to give a full answer, but she could answer some of them, you know. And I was lucky. I worked with girls who ate knowledge up like wildfire, you know, and that's rare.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rare. But they always said it was because of the way I presented it too, because I always look nobody's job. I was brought up to nobody's job is too little and
Right,
nobody's too
right.
high. You
Yep.
know, everybody works together as a machine. That's why I was asking about you guys being a working board, because it's not a one-man band. It's a machine, and
Right.
whatever you guys are helping out with as far as the outside world bringing in the information. I notice you do have Bishop and Associates.
Yeah.
What do they,
They handle our reval
that's it?
and getting our certifications.
Okay, so he comes in and, I'm assuming, does your analysis?
Yes.
Okay, and then checks your tables to make
Yes.
sure we're flying good? Who sketches in your new houses, in your,
Into the system?
Yep.
That's our assistant assessor.
perfect, okay. You know, I'll brush up on that.
Yeah.
I've done some, the monster homes
Right, and
and you guys have
The-
vision.
yes, we have vision, and we basically we do everything that
6'5"
our,
Let me break it.
we
Let me
do
break it down
everything that
for
our
a second.
assistant assessor tells us
Okay, excellent.
to make that
Good,
job work.
that's wonderful.
If we screw up somewhere, you send us right back out and we make it right.
Okay, okay. And you guys, when did you get V8?
Say again?
Vision, when did you get Vision 8?
I don't think we have Vision 8 yet.
I don't think we do.
You got 6.5
Oh,
still?
okay.
Yes.
I lied.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, because
It's
6,
old. So the new one that just came in. The reason I was just reading an email.
Oh.
That's what I was just sorry.
they're stopping supporting 6.5.
Right,
That's what's gonna force you to have to buy 8.
and
8 sucks.
historically, that's the way
my
we've always
opinion.
been.
Yeah,
pushed.
we held off as long as we could in Wilbraham. Then Manny knew he was leaving, so I was like, Manny, we gotta do this now, because whenever you're converting over, even the same
You're right,
system,
exactly.
there's headaches.
They give you every guarantee.
Yeah, and we tried to wait till the bugs were out of V8. V8, what happened is 6.5 is very simplistic.
Yeah, you can say that
Very,
again.
yeah, it's great, it's fantastic, because V8 comes in and the bells and whistles on it are for every state. You know, Oklahoma, Ohio, Florida.
Yeah, a lot of not applying.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
so why the assessing world is going to the IAO, you know, starting to become international instead of just Massachusetts. Again, beyond me, don't you want people that know the Massachusetts law only?
Yeah.
But you
Keep it
can't
simple,
change,
keep
yeah,
it simple.
but you can't change what's happening. The MAA is changing to the IAO, and it's getting, I'm glad I got my certification when I did. But the V8 is following the same suit. They've branched out so much.
And there's no reason to.
No, and their customer service, when we first switched, you couldn't get the same, it was like calling the IRS. You couldn't get the same person twice. And anytime you sent in, we're putting a ticket in for it, we're putting a ticket in for
Oh
it.
my God.
We started, and I kid you not, an Excel spreadsheet of the issues we were having when we did the conversion. And I'm not kidding you when I say we had a stack this big of Excel spreadsheet problems, and when they come in to do a correction, we go into the Excel to figure out what's correct. Every time they corrected something,
Something else?
yeah, well, one day I'm going to look up one of my small ranches up on Mountain Road, and I'm looking at the nursing home. I'm like, just doesn't look right. And the pictures weren't coinciding with what was
Yeah.
going on. So there was a lot of
Well, and the trouble is,
time
people,
consuming.
yeah, people are okay doing something wrong because they'll always come back and fix it if you catch it.
Right. Yeah, it just, the VH just very, and anybody that you know that has converted to it says the same thing. It's a big headache at the beginning. Once you get the big bugs out and the adjustments out, then it becomes better. Their report writing is, I think, much more difficult than it was on 6.5. 6.5 is, if you've done any report writing on 6.5, it's
We don't do a lot of reports.
Oh, it's really
Right.
pretty simple. VA, more complicated. So I'm sure you guys are looking at having to convert.
We
The reason I
always,
said it is
we always
because they
get pushed.
bombard us daily with stuff.
We
from
always
me.
get
That's
pushed.
when I said I jumped in there.
Yeah.
They are going to stop supporting it, is the problem. That's the.
We have
Like any
almost, we
software,
have
just
literally,
It's like any software, just to push out.
I
yeah,
agree. They went into something called Oracle. You appear to me to know a lot about computers, so maybe, yeah. So in going into the cloud and stuff like that, so is that how you guys are storing your stuff?
No.
We do.
Backups?
Yeah.
I'm not a big cloud person myself.
Me neither. Good.
I've had bad run-ins with cloud.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an education on the clouds.
Do you?
Yeah. The
I think you lose control of your
resources,
stuff.
the resources required to maintain a cloud are absolutely prohibitive. And people don't even know. People don't know the kind of resources you have to devote to a cloud.
Yeah. And I think you lose control of your stuff. So who are your IT people? Do you have IT people?
We have an outside firm, Acuity,
Okay, good.
anytime, and we don't very often have problems. Knock on wood.
But I mean, do they back up your systems?
Yes.
Once a
I
night?
don't know how often they do that.
I think it's nightly.
Okay.
I'm quite, I'm 99%
That would
sure.
be something I would find
Yeah.
out for sure, because that matters.
Yes.
Because if you have a hiccup and you have to go back and do a
Find it.
grab the backup
Yeah.
because you gotta get rid of what
Yeah.
what just happened.
Yeah.
You gotta know when that was and
Yeah.
what you produced in
Yeah.
between, you know? So that's something, we had nightly backups.
Yeah.
So, and I had an excellent IT guy, you know, and he was right on. He was excellent with the assessor's office as far as, you know, him and I
He
communicated
knows where
very
the money
well.
comes from.
Exactly, that's what he said. He
Yeah.
said, Kath, I won't let your work go, you know, so it was a constant all the time. It
Right,
was great.
so the way it's set up here is we have a town administrator who's also our town accountant. And if we have a problem, we refer it to him and he says, call Acuity.
Okay.
Or you call them and they verify with him, vice versa, whatever's easier.
Okay, so you go through
They
it,
typically.
We go straight,
Okay.
but he needs to know that,
what's going on, because I'm sure there's a fee for every
Yeah.
time, right? Now, who's your collector's software?
that's a good question. I don't,
They don't correspond, if that's what you're asking. They don't talk to each other.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So how do you get your values to them?
They're right next door.
yeah, we ship them over. When,
So
When we get the-
Bishop
when we
must
get done
come
the
in
recap
and do your
sheet.
legal files?
Say
Or
again?
does Bishop come in and transfer over your legal files, or do we do it ourselves?
we do it ourselves.
Okay. That I've done before with Patriot, not Patriot, that's what I'm on in Belchtown, with Vision. The V8, I think I've only done it once. It's not a difficult,
Right, it's
you
not,
know, yeah, it's funny. I used to tell Manny, I said, look, it's done at the end. It's like filing your taxes.
right,
You gotta do all your work before you can do the
before you
form.
exhale.
The forms are easy.
Before you exhale.
Yeah, the forms are easy.
And
It's
so
the
when
work
did-
getting ready
Right, so when
before.
would you send over your values to the tax collector for the,
We worked with, in Wilbraham, we had software for our collector's software, fantastic software. They're of course doing away with that too, because again, it's simple.
yeah,
Why keep simple?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think, so Tommy would want, they're due November 1st. We ran them twice a year. So our February and May go out together, our August and November. So in June, because they gotta go out for July 1st, somewhere early June, late May, we're shipping our values to Tommy. He's to the collector. The collector is looking to see if there's any problems. He'd always come over to me, he'd say, Kath, these are the new accounts, is this right? I say, yep, those are the new homes, the buildings,
okay, we
stuff like
wouldn't
that.
get that here.
Okay.
We would get that from, at best, the town accountant.
Okay, okay. Now, do you guys, are you a Chapter 653 community where you can pick up your new construction through June 30th, or do you end picking up your new construction on January 1st of every year?
January 1st.
January 1st, okay, okay. So many different things that different
Yeah,
towns
everybody
do.
does something different, and
They do.
historically, there might have been a decent reason.
Oh, I agree. And I will tell you, something that has been priceless, changing communities after 15 years.
Yeah.
I think everybody should have to go to
Absolutely.
another community.
Yeah.
Because you get complacent where you are. I'll be honest, I only knew Wilbraham's. It's the only place I was an assessor. And when I went to Belchertown, and I constantly say, it's not right and it's not wrong, it's just different.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter
Exactly.
how you get it done, it's the way they do it, they just do it a little different than what I'm used to. And changing gears, because when I went to Belchertown, I changed all softwares. I went to Patriot and Munis,
Yeah.
from SoftWrite and Vision, you know, and then their GIS, we were with Ty and Bond in Wilbraham, and they're with Cartographics,
Right.
CAI.
Yeah.
You guys are with somebody
CAI.
called
We're with
Oliver. You're with CAI?
Yeah.
So do you deal with Franco?
Yes.
Excellent. Good, because I've been dealing with him in Belchertown. I like him a
I
lot.
try to give him a hard time.
I like him a
Yeah.
lot. And I've only sent over, since I've only been there 8 months, I've only sent over one set of mapping so far. They were very good,
Yeah.
back and forth correspondence,
Yeah.
to get accurate.
I mean,
it's
they always
fantastic.
want more money out of us.
Yeah.
And that's why Franco's good to us.
Yeah.
'Cause he wants more money.
He comes right to you if you
Yeah.
want him. I
Yeah.
had him come to Belchertown,
Yeah.
talk to me and go over what he wanted.
Yeah.
I found him great because Belchertown sends their mapping all year round. Wilbraham once a year.
Right.
I mean, January 1st cut off, I got till April to push it through.
Yeah, we generally send once a year.
Once a year, yeah. It's funny, they work a little different. They also change their ownership all the time.
Yeah.
And we only changed it once a year. You know, January 1st.
It would seem as though it's just overwhelmed them.
They've
But-
got
they've got a
ample staffing.
Right, and they've got a lot of
Um,
communities now.
Yeah, yeah. It's just different. Like I said, it's not wrong.
Right,
It's
it's
just
different.
And you just have to learn the way you want it. I did notice, is it Nicole that's your collector now?
Yes.
She was here
Yes.
before.
She got elected to the tax collector's position
at the last.
Wow.
because the tax collector retired.
So it's kind of good that she's here as far as information.
Kinda.
Because she would know part of
Yes.
what's going on in here,
Yeah.
where to find and
Yeah.
things of that
Yeah.
nature.
To a degree. I think the employee we just lost
Carrie Ann.
Carrie Ann.
changed. I wasn't, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For recording purposes, I wasn't gonna mention names, but
Are we being recorded?
we are.
Oh, hi.
Yep. It's an open meeting, so
Yeah,
yes.
that's fine.
I know she did a lot of rearranging and stuff, so there is sometimes when Nicole will come in that
Yeah.
stuff's out of place, but
Well,
it's not very big, as you can see. This is
yeah,
it. This is the office.
You're not gonna be able, where are your maps?
Right when you came in,
Okay.
You are right.
right there.
Okay.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to ask this.
You're being filmed.
I'm being filmed, but what makes you think we can afford you?
I'm not sure. I'm here to, that,
Right,
you've hit right on the button. That I'm a little worried about myself.
right,
I would backtrack to our first conversation about the assessing office and what value you have here. How much of the income is produced out of this one-man band, and how often you want to keep going through change,
right.
like you said. I'm looking to, I'll be honest with you, I had an opportunity to go to Palmer. Palmer solicited me and definitely came in with the money after I negotiated with them. I hope who's there now negotiated well. And that I knew that community just wasn't for me. You know, there's just, I follow my gut and it always leads me the right direction. I knew it wasn't the right fit for me, and so I said, no, I'm going to stay in Belchertown until I find the right fit. Again, you walked in the door, I did a little research on your town. I know a little bit about Granby because I lived in South Hadley for 18 years. And the only thing, I don't know if I'm in your budget range, because I did look at your town reports, and I will tell you.
That was low, by the way, if you're looking at our wages for this office, that was low.
I
That
will.
was for the reason of the employee that was here at the time when that was submitted.
Okay.
That's why that would, yeah.
Yeah.
The second you said that, I said, oh, we gotta,
Yeah.
let's just change that real quick.
Okay. It's, you know, in all honesty, I'm maxing out in Belchertown at 70,000. I know that that's high for here, and your first thing you're gonna say to me is 40 hours versus 30. I'm already prepared for that. I'm gonna tell you, the assessor's office, I don't know if you do hourly or salary, but salary is always your best way, because you're gonna have times 30 hours a week will not be enough for a one-man band to cover it.
Right.
So, to be very honest with you, I'm looking to come over for approximately the same. I'm a single income person, so I need my income.
Right.
And to give a little big plus, if you look at it this way, if we can rig this to be remote from home too during bad weather, I'm all set up at home.
Your travel from where you're coming from is definitely,
Yeah.
we had that conversation earlier.
I've got a full office at home, brand new computer, printer, whole 9 yards. I am capable from working from home in a heartbeat, so if we have a snowstorm, this place doesn't shut down.